Away field advantage. A soccer team's journey to win by bringing the road home. Starring Whisker, the Mascot, by David Russo. Chapter 1. The Home Curse. The Ridge City Rovers were supposed to win tonight. The stadium was packed. Banners waved in red and gold. The drumline pounded out a war rhythm. Fans shouted players' names. Cell phones flashed. One sign read, "Undefeated season starts now." Instead, it was halftime, and the Rovers were down 2-0. Coach Eduardo stood with his arms crossed near the tunnel, eyes hidden beneath the brim of his cap. His jaw was tight, not angry, just confused. On the field, the halftime show began, the part the crowd usually loved. A spotlight hit the center circle, and out came Whisker the raccoon, the team's official mascot, wearing a Ridge City jersey and a backward cap. Whisker popped into a dance, spinning and shaking his furry hips. But tonight, the energy wasn't there. The crowd barely reacted. A few polite claps, some muttering. Then a voice from the south end yelled, "Bring back the guy with the flaming baton!" Whisker stumbled a little and froze. His foam raccoon head turned slowly to the crowd. He gave a tiny, awkward bow, then jogged off the field and disappeared down the tunnel. Nobody cheered. After the game, a 2-0 loss, the team boarded the bus in silence. Malik, the team captain, flopped into his seat by the window, earbuds in. He didn't hit play, just stared at his reflection in the dark glass. Luca, the flashy midfielder, sat 3 rows back with his head in his hands. Someone had already posted clips of his missed chances online. One fan had commented, "More like Luca, no goal." And in the very back of the bus, alone, sat Whisker, the person inside the costume anyway. He had taken off the raccoon head and rested it beside him like a deflated balloon. Without it, he looked like a quiet, older man. His eyes were tired, but still warm. He didn't say a word. Coach Eduardo stood near the front, watching his team file in like ghosts. 14,000 fans, he muttered, "and we freeze in our own house." No one responded. Eduardo sighed and walked down the aisle. He paused near Whisker. "I ever tell you about my first home game as a coach?" he said. Whisker didn't answer, but turned slightly toward him. "We won 3-1, Eduardo said, but I couldn't breathe the entire first half. Not from nerves, from expectation. Every time I moved, I felt like I was disappointing somebody." Whisker raised his eyebrows, or would have, if the foam head had been on. He gave a small nod. "I think that's what's killing us," Eduardo said, glancing at the quiet players. "Not the other teams, not tactics, just pressure. From the crowd, from the city, from ourselves." Whisker reached down and pulled out a small, beat-up sketchbook from his duffel. He flipped through it. Drawings, scribbles, scraps of quotes. Then he turned to a fresh page and began to draw. Eduardo watched over his shoulder for a moment. The sketch was simple. A soccer stadium, drawn like a cage, thick bars across the top, a goalpost shaped like a padlock, and sitting in the middle, a little raccoon, holding a soccer ball, looking up at the lights. Underneath, Whisker wrote, "You're not trapped. You just think you are." When the bus pulled into the Ridge City training facility, no one spoke. The players dragged their gear off the bus and trudged inside. But Whisker stayed in his seat for a moment longer. He looked out the window, past the parking lot, toward the stadium looming in the distance. Its lights had gone dark, but the building still seemed alive somehow, like it was watching them, waiting. He reached down, picked up the foam raccoon head, and gently placed it back over his own. Then he stood, dusted off his tail, and whispered softly inside the suit, "Tomorrow we try again." He stepped off the bus. Chapter 2. Road to Nowhere. The bus rolled through the night, past empty gas stations and sleeping towns. Nobody really knew where they were, just that it wasn't Ridge City, and somehow That was a relief. The Ridge City Rovers were headed to the first away game of the season. 4 hours to go, Malik groaned from the middle row, stretching his legs into the aisle. Whose idea was it to schedule 3 straight road games? Yours, probably, Luca muttered, tossing a peanut at him. Captain's curse. In the back of the bus, Whisker, in full costume, was gently balancing an orange traffic cone on his head. When the cone tipped over, he caught it, flipped it, and placed it like a crown on Malik's head. Whisker the Wise blesses you, Malik said dramatically. He kept it on. The mood was lighter than usual. The pressure of the home crowd was miles behind them now. And for the first time in weeks, the team wasn't walking on eggshells. At the hotel, the players sprawled across lobby couches like lazy cats. Eduardo called a quick meeting in the breakfast room, surrounded by cereal dispensers and sad plastic flowers. Listen, the coach said, standing near a juice machine that sputtered occasionally. I don't care what the rankings say. We're not the favorites out here. Nobody expects us to win. That's a gift. Luca raised an eyebrow. Losing is a gift? No, Eduardo said. Freedom is. Whisker peeked around the corner with a tiny hotel coffee in one paw and a travel-sized pillow stuffed under the other. He gave a sleepy thumbs up. See? Even Whisker gets it, Eduardo said. Now go play like you don't have 14,000 people breathing down your neck. Game day. Small stadium, local high school band, barely 2,000 fans. No giant lights, no blaring jumbotron. Just a field, some bleachers, and a referee who looked like he moonlighted as a science teacher. The Rovers played loose, sharp, fast. Luca found his rhythm again, dribbling past defenders like they were cones. Malik scored a header off a corner, his first of the season, and didn't even celebrate. He just grinned and pointed at Whisker on the sideline, who did a cartwheel and collapsed in pretend exhaustion. Final score, 2-1 Rovers. On the bus ride back, the team was different. Music played quietly. Conversations floated from row to row. Someone passed around a bag of candy. Luca taught Whisker a new handshake involving elbow bumps and pretend tail wags. The raccoon nailed it on the third try. It's weird, Malik said, leaning back in his seat. Away games used to stress me out. New beds, bad food, weird locker rooms. But now? Luca asked. Malik looked around, at the team laughing, at the way Eduardo was half asleep with a crossword on his lap, at Whisker goofing off in the aisle with a traffic cone on each hand. Now it's like we remember why we play, Malik said, like no one's watching. Even though they are, Luca added, with a grin. They won the next away game, too. 3-2 in a rainy town with more seagulls than fans. After the final whistle, the team danced in the locker room, soaked and giddy. Whisker joined in, slipping twice on the wet tiles before nailing a one-pawed spin that had everyone cheering. No one talked about the home crowd. No one mentioned Ridge City. For a moment, it felt like the whole league had forgotten about them. And somehow, that was the best thing that could have happened. Coach Eduardo watched the team pile back onto the bus, muddy and laughing. He turned to Whisker, who was toweling off his foam head with a hotel hand towel. Keep the cones ready, Eduardo said quietly. Something's changing. I don't know what it is, but it's good. Whisker gave him a slow, thoughtful nod, then pulled out his sketchbook and began to draw. This time it was a bus, filled with light. No fans, no crowd, just a team, finally free. And at the top of the page, Whisker wrote, Somewhere on the road, we found joy again. Chapter 3, Cotton Candy and Local Kids. The Rovers pulled up to a stadium in a small town miles from Ridge City. The place looked nothing like their usual arenas. No giant billboards, no roaring crowds, just a modest field surrounded by a chain-link fence and a handful of folding chairs. Outside the gate, a group of kids clustered together, holding fluffy pink and blue cotton candy sticks. Their faces were bright with excitement, even though none of them wore a team jersey or had tickets. Malik squinted as he stepped off the bus. "Hey," he said, walking over. "You guys here watch the game?" One of the kids, a girl with a crooked grin and freckles dusting her nose, nodded. "We can't get in, but we like watching from here." She pointed to a spot just beyond the fence where they could see the field. Luca smiled, reaching into his bag and pulling out a handful of wristbands. "Here, take these. You're part of the team today." The kids cheered, slipping the bands on their wrists like badges of honor. During the warm-ups, Malik noticed the kids waving and shouting from beyond the fence. Their energy was contagious. No expectations, no pressure, just pure joy. He jogged over to the fence and called, "We're playing for you today." The kids erupted in cheers. Whisker, nearby, pulled out a handful of cotton candy sticks from his bag and tossed them like fluffy confetti over the fence. The game itself was tight. The Rovers pushed hard, energized by the cheers coming from the sidelines. When Malik scored the second goal, he ran to the fence, tapping his wristband and smiling at the kids. "This one's for you." That night, back on the bus, the team was quiet but different, more alive somehow. Whisker sat at the back, pulling out a whiteboard and a marker. He drew the kids, faces full of hope, laughter, and wide-open eyes, right there on the whiteboard. Underneath, he wrote, "Home is who you play for, not where you play." Coach Eduardo peered over Whisker's shoulder. "That's something." Malik looked up, nodding slowly. "We've been thinking about the wrong place all along." Luca grinned. "Maybe it's us." Whisker gave a quiet wink behind his mask. The bus hummed along the road, carrying the team forward, not just to the next game, but toward a new understanding of what it meant to play with heart. Chapter 4. Back to the cage. The bus rolled back into Ridge City, the skyline glittering under the evening sky. Familiar buildings flashed by, but the team didn't feel the comfort of home. Instead, there was a tight knot in everyone's stomach. They called their stadium the Cage, and today it felt more like a trap. The stands were packed, but the cheers weren't warm. They were sharp, expectant, even angry. "Get it together," shouted a parent from the stands as Malik fumbled a pass during warm-ups. A group near the front pulled out their phones, live blogging every missed opportunity, every slip. Luca caught a glimpse of the glowing screen and clenched his jaw. "Feels like they want us to break." Whisker stood near the sideline, watching the crowd. The spotlight hit him during halftime. It was his moment to lift the mood, but today even his breakdancing felt forced. The crowd barely moved, faces fixed on their phones or arms crossed in judgment. After a shaky first half, the team trailed 0-2. Back in the locker room, frustration hung thick. Coach Eduardo slammed his fist into his palm. "What's going on out there? You're choking in your own house." Luca shook his head. "It's not just us. It's them, the fans. They don't want us to win. They want us perfect." Malik rubbed his forehead. "It's like playing in a cage. We can't breathe." At halftime, the show was supposed to spark a turnaround. A fire juggler stepped onto the field, tossing flaming torches into the air. But nerves got the better of him. A torch slipped, clattering to the ground. The crowd gasped. Whisker sat off the side, his foam head tilted as if weighing the moment. When the second half started, the team looked more trapped than ever. The stadium seemed to close in, the noise a heavy weight pressing down. After the final whistle, a 0-3 loss, the players trudged to the locker room, heads low. Whisker was already there, sitting quietly at his locker. On the door, taped and waiting, was a drawing, the stadium, cracked and wrapped in thick chains. Underneath, a note in Whisker's handwriting. "You're not trapped. You just think you are." Malik stared at the drawing. "Feels like we are." Whisker looked up, the eyes behind the mask soft but steady. "No," he said quietly. "The cage is in your mind. You hold the keys." Luca sat beside him, tracing the cracks in the drawing with his finger. "So how do we unlock it?" Whisker reached into his bag and pulled out a worn notebook. Patience, practice, and a little wisdom. The team exchanged uncertain looks, but for the first time that day, there was a flicker of hope. Chapter 5. Whisker's Notebook. The bus was quiet as it rolled down the highway, the city lights fading behind them. After the crushing loss at home, everyone seemed lost in their own thoughts. Whisker sat in his usual spot at the back, the foam head resting on his lap. The night was still, except for the hum of the engine and occasional murmurs from the players. Suddenly, Malik noticed a small leather-bound book sticking out from under Whisker's seat. "Hey, what's this?" Malik asked, pulling it out carefully. Whisker looked up, startled. "Oh, that? It's just my notebook." Luca leaned forward, curious. "What kind of notebook?" Whisker hesitated, then shrugged. "Stuff I've been keeping. Drawings, thoughts, quotes, maps." Malik flipped it open. On the first page, a sketch of the team, faces both fierce and hopeful, the scribbled words around them. "Looks like you've been paying attention," Malik said, eyes scanning the pages. Inside the notebook were sketches of stadiums, the crowded Ridge City cage, the open small town field, the empty bus seats, each drawn with details that felt almost alive. There were quotes too, some familiar, others new. "Play like no one's watching, even when they are. It's not home that holds you, it's the team." Whisker smiled behind the mask. "I've been trying to make sense of all this. The pressure, the wins, the losses." Coach Eduardo leaned in, surprised. "You see it all, don't you?" Whisker nodded. "More than you think." Luca traced a page showing a player mid-kick, a shadow behind him representing doubt. Beside it, a note, "Fear is just a shadow. Step into the light." Malik looked up, inspired. This is what we needed. Not just tactics, but heart. The team gathered around as Whisker read aloud from his notebook. "Strength isn't just muscle or skill. It's knowing who you are when no one's cheering." The bus grew warmer with shared understanding. Coach Eduardo wiped a hand over his face. "We've been fighting ourselves more than the other teams." Luca smiled, nudging Malik. "Time to fight together." Whisker closed the notebook and looked around. "From now on, before every game, I'll share some wisdom with you. A little reminder that it's more than just a game." Malik laughed. "You mean a pep talk from a dancing raccoon?" Whisker gave a sly wink. "Exactly." The bus erupted in laughter, breaking the heaviness from earlier. As the city lights reappeared on the horizon, the team felt something shift, a quiet hope, a renewed purpose. They were ready to face whatever came next, together. Chapter 6. The Wave That Never Came. The Rovers stood in the tunnel, ready to take the field for another home game. The stadium buzzed with the sound of restless fans, but something felt off. Malik glanced at the stands. No signs of the usual energy. No chants, no waves, no cheers. Just quiet murmurs, and impatient tapping on seats. Luca muttered, "It's like the crowd's already given up on us." Coach Eduardo paced nervously, eyes scanning the crowd. "We need to spark something. Anything." Whisker stood nearby, shifting from foot to foot in his foam head. Tonight, he was determined to lift the team and the fans, but the air was heavy. The game started, but the silence from the crowd was deafening. The players moved, but the energy was missing. At halftime, the stadium tried to boost spirits with a halftime show. A magician, wearing a glittering cape, stepped onto the field. He began his act with flashy cards and coins, but then, with a surprised yelp, he pulled out a wriggling baby raccoon from his hat. The crowd gasped. Some laughed. Others murmured. Whisker watched with a small smile behind his mask, but noticed the team's distracted faces. Back in the locker room, the atmosphere was heavy. Luca sat alone on a bench, staring at the floor. "I don't get it," he said softly. "At away games, we feel free. like we can play with joy. But here, the home crowd, it doesn't lift us. It buries us. Malik sat beside him, nodding. They don't cheer. They don't wave. They just judge. Whisker quietly approached, kneeling next to Luca. He took a paper crown from his bag and gently placed it on Luca's head. Here, he said, tapping his chest, royalty rules from within. You don't need their crown. You already wear yours. Luca smiled faintly, eyes meeting Whisker's. We've got to find our own wave, Whisker whispered. That night, the team left the stadium with heavy hearts. But as they walked through the empty city streets, Whisker danced softly, a silly, goofy shuffle that slowly made the others smile. Malik laughed. Maybe the wave starts with us. Luca grinned. Yeah, if the crowd won't do it, we'll bring it ourselves. Coach Eduardo nodded slowly. Tomorrow we change the game. Not just on the field, but in our heads. Whisker twirled, the foam head bobbing. From inside out, he said. Chapter 7. Away Inside Out. The training ground was buzzing with an unusual kind of energy. Loud music blasted through the speakers, a mix of upbeat beats and crowd chants. Players looked around, puzzled but intrigued. Coach Eduardo stood in front, arms wide. All right, everyone, today we're turning the cage upside down. Luca raised an eyebrow. What does that even mean? Eduardo grinned. It means no normal drills today. We're going to practice like we're on the road. Away mindset. Away energy. Malik chuckled. So no pressure? Exactly, Eduardo said. Away games feel free, right? No judgment, just play. So today, we take the freedom with us. Whisker burst out from behind a stack of cones, foam head bobbing. And I've got a new dance to teach. No pressure, no worries, just move. The players laughed, watching Whisker demonstrate a goofy shuffle with exaggerated arm waves. Come on, join in, Whisker urged, twirling and sliding across the turf. At first, the team hesitated. Then, one by one, they started copying the moves, laughing, breaking the usual intensity of practice. Even Coach Eduardo got in, attempting the shuffle and nearly tripping over his own feet. Luca laughed until tears welled up. Okay, this is actually fun. After the dance, Eduardo blew his whistle. Now, surprise drills. No warning, no routine. Just react, adapt, enjoy. The players sprinted, dodged, and passed with renewed energy, the music pumping through their veins. Malik yelled, Feels like we're on the road already. Whisker nodded, breathing heavy behind the foam mask. Away field advantage, right here, right now. Coach Eduardo pulled the team in for a huddle. From today on, no matter where we play, we carry that away freedom inside us. No cage, no pressure, just us, the Rovers. Luca pumped a fist. Let's bring the away with us. The team cheered, their spirits lifted, their hearts lighter. Whisker wiggled his foam fingers. Wisdom delivered. Later, as the sun set over Ridge City, the team sat together on the grass, sharing stories from past away games, the crowds, the strange stadium foods, the unexpected moments of joy. Malik smiled, tossed a piece of cotton candy into the air. Maybe the best part of away games isn't where we play. It's how we feel when we play. Luca nodded. Yeah, free. No cages. Whisker's eyes gleamed behind the foam mask. Exactly. And now, that feeling is home. Chapter 8. Bringing the away home. The stadium buzzed with skepticism as the Rovers walked onto the field wearing shirts that read, Away State of Mind. Malik caught Luca's eye. Let's show them what that means. The crowd was quiet at first. No chants, no waves, just crossed arms and doubtful looks. Whisker bounced with excitement, leading the pre-game fun. When the whistle blew, the team exploded with energy. Quick passes, fearless runs, and big smiles. Fans started to lean forward, surprised. Midway through the first half, Whisker led the first wave, slowly rising, growing until the whole north end was on its feet, cheering widely. The wave caught fire. Fans began tossing cotton candy sticks like confetti, pink and white swirls floating in the air. Malik scored the first goal, running to the crowd and tossing his shirt into the stands. The stadium erupted. Luka laughed, weaving past defenders. This is the way spirit, right here at home. Coach Eduardo shouted, "Bring the away with you, every game." Whisker danced along the sidelines, waving scarves, spreading joy. The final whistle showed Rovers 3, opponents 0. The crowd roared, chanting, "Whisker! Whisker!" Chapter 9. Fall on the Road. The Rovers bus pulled up to the stadium under a gray, overcast sky. The team felt the weight of the moment, a critical away game that could make or break their season. The crowd was loud, the energy fierce, but something felt different, tense, almost hostile. Malik tightened his laces, glancing around nervously. "We need this win." Luka nodded, but his eyes were distant. "We've been riding high. Let's not get overconfident." The game started with intensity, tackles flying, passes sharp, shots on goal. But the other team was tough. They pressed hard, forcing mistakes. By halftime, the Rovers trailed 0-2. Whisker was missing. The mascot's usual antics on the sidelines were nowhere to be seen. Malik looked to the spot where Whisker usually danced. "Where's Whisker?" Coach Eduardo's face tightened. He injured his ankle during halftime back home. He stayed behind for treatment. The team felt the absence like a missing heartbeat. The second half was a struggle. Without Whisker's spirit lifting them, the Rovers played cautiously, fearful. They fought hard but couldn't close the gap. Final whistle blew. 1-3, a painful loss. Hours later, back at the hotel, the team sat in silence. Whisker arrived, hobbling in on crutches, the foam head tucked under one arm. He smiled weakly, sorry to miss the show. Malik stood up. "Whisk, we needed you out there." Whisker shook his head. Sometimes, even mascots fall. He pulled a folded page from his notebook and handed it to Eduardo. "Coach, read aloud. Loss is part of the road. Not the end, just a bend. Keep moving." Luka looked up. "We forget that too easily." Whisker smiled softly. "Every fall teaches you how to get up stronger." The team gathered close, feeling the truth in Whisker's words. Malik said, "We'll take that lesson back onto the field, together." Whisker nodded, "And I'll be right here, even if I can't dance." They shared a quiet moment, a team ready to face the road ahead, no matter what. Chapter 10. Mascot with a Message. The locker room was quiet, the air thick with tired muscles and heavy hearts after their recent loss on the road. Coach Eduardo sat on a bench, holding Whisker's worn notebook gently. "All right, everyone," he said softly. "Whisker asked me to share this with you." The players gathered around, curious and a little hesitant. Malik reached out and opened the notebook. The pages were filled with sketches, quotes, and little notes, some silly, some deep. Luka pointed to a page with a drawing of a player standing tall, shadowed by a crowd. "Play like no one's watching, even when they are. That one hits home." Malik nodded. "It's like saying, don't let the pressure choke you." Whisker smiled behind his foam head, nodding. Coach Eduardo cleared his throat. "There's another here. It's not home that holds you. It's the team." Luka's eyes brightened. "That means we carry our strength with us, not just the stadium." Malik flipped to a page with a sketch of a cracked stadium wrapped in chains. Whisker spoke quietly. "That's what trapped us before. Not the place, our own doubts." As they read through the pages, laughter mixed with quiet moments. Quotes like, "Fear is just a shadow. Step into the light. Strength isn't muscle or skill. It's knowing who you are when no one's cheering." Malik said, "Whisker's been carrying this all along. Our real mascot isn't just fun and games. It's wisdom." Coach Eduardo smiled. "Exactly. This is our secret weapon." Luka looked around at his teammates. "We're ready to play with heart, ready to be a team." Whisker placed a paw on Luka's shoulder. "And remember," he said softly, "the road isn't always smooth, but it's ours." Later that night, the team walked through the empty streets of Ridge City. The city lights flickered on, casting long shadows. They talked quietly, sharing hopes and fears, bound by words in Whisker's notebook. Malik grinned. It's not just a mascot costume, it's a message. Luca nodded, and we're the ones who bring it to life. Coach Eduardo looked at the team, tired but stronger. We'll carry this message into every game. Whisker smiled behind his mask, heart full, because sometimes the loudest cheers come from the quietest wisdom. Chapter 11, Return of the Cotton Candy. The bus rumbled to a stop outside a small-town stadium, its bright lights cutting through the early evening dusk. As players stepped down, they heard familiar voices, cheers, and shouts coming from beyond the fence. Malik squinted and smiled. Wait, is that them? Luca looked closer. A group of kids stood by the gate, holding handmade signs that read, "We believe in the Rovers." Whisker bounced out of the bus, foam head bobbing with excitement. One of the kids stepped forward, offering a fluffy pink bag of cotton candy. Here, the kid said shyly, for good luck. Malik took the bag, tucking it safely into his sock with a grin. Luca knelt to the kids' level. Thanks for believing in us. The kids cheered louder, waving their signs and clapping. Inside the stadium, the Rovers felt a renewed energy. The crowd was smaller but passionate, every cheer like a burst of fuel. Malik looked at Luca. This feels like home, even though it's away. Coach Eduardo called the team to the sidelines. This game is ours. Play for them. Play for each other. The whistle blew. The Rovers moved with purpose. Quick passes, bold shots, and fearless tackles. Midway through the second half, Malik broke free, the ball at his feet. He glanced down at the cotton candy tucked in his sock. With a burst of speed, he dodged defenders and shot. The ball soared past the keeper. A perfect goal. The crowd erupted. After the final whistle, the players gathered, sweaty and triumphant. Malik held up the cotton candy bag. We brought a little piece of their hope with us. Luca grinned. Now just one more win at home, and the title's ours. Whisker danced in place, leading the team in a cheer. The kids outside the fence shouted, "Go Rovers, go!" The team waved back, their hearts full. As the bus pulled away, Malik looked out the window. That was more than a game, he said softly. Luca nodded. It's a reminder. Home isn't a place. It's who believes in you. Whisker's foam head bobbed beside them. Exactly, and we carry that with us everywhere. Chapter 12, Home at Last. The stadium was packed, every seat filled. Inside the locker room, the team prepared quietly. Malik said, "This is it. Time to bring it home." Coach Eduardo smiled. Remember, it's not where we play, but how we play. The halftime show stole attention. A local dance crew performed a raccoon dance, Whisker center stage, spinning and leaping. The crowd erupted. On the field, Rovers played with freedom and fire. The crowd caught the spirit. A huge wave rolled through the stands, led by Whisker's waving paws. Cotton candy sticks rained down like confetti, pink and white floating everywhere. Malik scored in the 70th minute, the crowd exploding. The scoreboard glowed. Rovers 3, opponents 0. Whisker climbed the goalpost, waving a flag. Home at last. Fireworks lit the sky as the team lifted the trophy. Whisker removed his foam head, revealing an older man with proud eyes. Luca whispered, "He's been with us the whole way." Malik grinned. "He is the away field advantage."